We assess that China prefers that President Trump be defeated. In the past few months, it has stepped up public rhetoric criticizing the administration, which it recognizes may affect the election. That is key, but that was kept from President Trump. It should have been in the PDB. It wasn't. And just as a reminder, why would China prefer Joe Biden over President Trump? Why would they have that preference? Here's a clue.
I have many people from China that I do business with. They laugh at us. They feel we're fools. You know, they're getting away with absolute murder.
China's a great nation, and we should hope for the continued expansion.
I don't want to lose $300 billion a year to China when we can't afford to build schools for our children, when we can't afford to build highways, when we can't afford to build railways, when we can't afford to build bridges. I want money to be invested in jobs and in this country. I don't want to rebuild China.
A rising China is a positive development, not only for China, but for America and the world writ large.
It was China's fault. And China's going to pay a big price, what they've done to this country. China's going to pay a big price, what they've done to the world. This was China's fault. And just remember that.
554,064 American dead from COVID-19. A lot of families want to know how this happened, how it got here. Have you had a chance to speak to any of your international partners, any of President Xi, who I know you go way back with? Have you had a chance to ask him if these reports are true that China maybe misled the world at the beginning?
No, I have not had that conversation with President Xi. Thank you.
Kind of makes perfect sense why they preferred Joe Biden. And why wasn't that a huge scandal? I mean, the drumbeat about Russia, Russia, Russia. Here's a couple of other things we should know and remind us how Joe treated China. Remember that balloon? Remember the balloon? Remember this thing? It sailed over the country, and Joe didn't do a damn thing about it. It went all the way from China over our most sensitive military bases, and Joe did not shoot it down until it was safely over the Atlantic Ocean. I think that thing was a menace. But you got to remember this. Why would they want, again, Joe Biden? $250,000, James Comer's committee wired directly to the Biden household in Wilmington, Delaware. James Comer came up with that. Also, overall, the Oversight Committee determined that China paid the Biden family at least $3 million, okay? So the weaponization that we saw was like, there's weaponization of omission. They didn't tell this they kept it out of the presidential daily briefing. They kept it out of the reports where it should have been. And some people, I can tell, are feeling very, very guilty.
Information. Truth. Is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.